Okay, so good afternoon to everybody. It's morning time here in Ireland, but I think most are dialing in from the Asian side of the world. Delighted to be here to speak to you all today, and really looking forward to chatting to the Yes Education team. As Ivy mentioned, so my name is Liam Ryan. So I work as the Southeast Asia Regional Manager. And my main role is to work with our agents and our students coming from Southeast Asia. So our main regions that we focus on are Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines within the region. But we do also cover other areas as well. And we do have recruitment teams in China, in India, and elsewhere. I'm a proud graduate of UL, so I studied politics and international relations, class of 2006. So I studied in UL for my full undergraduate degree, had an amazing time. And then I worked in the NHS in the UK for about 10 years. And then Brexit happened, so I decided to come home, and I've been working in UL since then. So really enjoying my time here, and look forward to supporting the Yes Education team. As Ivy mentioned, just to give a brief introduction, so we are a public government university in Ireland. We're ranked in the top 100 young universities in the world by Times Higher Education. We were founded, as mentioned, one of the first university founded since the foundation of the Republic of Ireland when we got independence. So founded in 1989, and we've been able to be hugely successful in that short time. We're quite a disruptive university. We try and do things a little bit differently, and I'll talk about that in terms of our structure. Two things we're particularly proud of, and two things we focus on. The first one is student experience. So we put a huge amount of focus on making sure that every student that comes to Limerick and comes to UL has the best possible experience. So there's quite a lot of resources put in place for student support, for student life, campus facilities, and making sure that the best conditions possible are there for students to have a safe, fun, and enjoyable experience while they have their university life. So in 2019, we were actually rated #1 in the world for international student experience through the iGraduate International Student Survey. And in 2020, we were rated #3 in Europe for career preparation and graduate employability. And that's the other focus of the university, is making sure that not only students come to us and have an enjoyable experience, but also they get jobs after they graduate. One of the key foundations of this for UL is what we call cooperative education. We were basically the founders of cooperative education in Ireland. So when the university was set up, we built in an 8-month paid internship for every undergraduate student. So it's a compulsory part of every undergraduate program. Every single undergraduate student will do an 8-month internship. The vast majority are paid, and it's the largest internship program in Europe at the moment. So that's a huge differentiator. Normally that internship happens in year 3. It's arranged by the university, and it's done in partnership with key industry partners that we work with. So students that graduate from UL not only graduate with a bachelor's degree, but also graduate with almost a year of work experience as well. Our master's programs are shorter. So our master's programs are normally 1 year in duration. They don't have the same length of an internship, but they will have some company facing experience, and have some kind of, I suppose, practical type teaching built into that as well. As Ivy mentioned, we are quite an affordable university. So it's a policy of UL's to have kind of as easy access in terms of fees and costs. So we do try and keep the tuition fees as low as possible. For Irish students, it's completely free. For European students, it is subsidized. And then we do provide subsidies, scholarships, and a low tuition for international students as well. So for a student doing a bachelor's of business or humanities, their tuition plus their living fees for the year is under 20,000 euros. So that's a really kind of affordable option, particularly when you look at the rankings and the quality of education that is on offer. I have a very short video just so you can see the campus and some of the facilities. So this should only take about 2 minutes, and I hope it works through Zoom. Ivy, if it doesn't play clearly, you might just let me know.
Yeah, or I can play it from my end as well.
Perfect.
Why choose UL? At UL, there are over 3,000 international students from 100 different countries across the world.
State-of-the-art facilities
with hands-on experience.
UL is Ireland's sporting campus with an Olympic swimming pool and a world-class sports arena.
And these pitches, which are accessible to all UL students. UL has 7 purpose-built student villages, so you're never more than a few minutes away from your next lecture.
Researchers at the Bernal Institute work with the very best scientists and engineers from all over the world.
At UL, you get to put theory
into practice.
My world-renowned professors inspire me to be the best I can be every day.
All international students are eligible for up to 2-year work visa once they complete their degree.
UL was voted first in Ireland and the UK for Students' Union and first in the world for social activities. UL was voted #1 in Ireland for its clubs and societies. We have over 80 different ones.
And there are some great spots to get away to on our beautiful campus. UL students have a very high employment rate compared to the university national average.
The greatest thing about UL is the community that you become a part of and the friendships you make along the way.
Choose UL for living.
For world-class facilities.
For affordable education.
Choose UL for a global qualification.
Choose UL for community.
For friendship. Choose UL for your future.
For real-life experience.
For a world of opportunity.
So, what are you waiting for?
Okay, I do hope that came through okay. I know the videos can be a little bit dodgy on Zoom, so hopefully you saw that all right. So just a brief introduction to Ireland. It worked okay, perfect. Thanks, Ivy. So a brief introduction to Ireland. I know some of you may be familiar with Ireland and the education and economic system here, but some of you maybe this is your first time speaking to an Irish university. So I said I'd just give a short introduction to Ireland also. So Ireland is an English-speaking country in the EU, so one of only 2 now. So ourselves, the Republic of Ireland and Malta are the only 2 native English-speaking countries left in the EU after the UK has left. Our nearest neighbour is the UK. So as Ivy mentioned, we got independence from the UK in 1922, and we've been working as a separate country since then. We use the euro, and we're very strong partners within the European Union. There's no plans to leave or anything like that. We've also been the fastest growing economy in Europe for the last 5 years. And a big driver of that has been large multinationals have based their European headquarters in Ireland. I suppose for a number of different reasons. There's a very highly educated workforce. Obviously, an English-speaking country, we have good tax system in place for them, but also it's a good access into the EU in that English-speaking environment. The main sectors that base themselves here would be tech, pharma, medical devices, but also many other industries like financial services and so on. We're known as the Silicon Valley of Europe. So we have basically every large tech company you can think of has their European base here in Ireland. So Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Twitter. You know, you think of a large tech firm, it will be here. Apple, Intel, Dell, they have their bases here as well. And in the cost of education, so as I mentioned, the Irish government, we're a public university. The Irish government provides us with millions of euros of funding. Education is free for Irish students. It's heavily subsidized for EU students, and then it is subsidized also for non-EU students, because the cost of running the university is paid for by the government. So for us, it's not really a financial exercise to recruit students. It's more about diversity, internationalization and rankings and so on. So we do provide a more affordable option maybe than the US, Australia, and some others. Just to touch on Ireland and UL, just I suppose to touch on COVID. And before I go to there, I suppose I just want to make sure that and hope that everyone is in a safe environment, and that the situations in your countries are being managed. Just to give an overview of what's happening in Ireland would be quite useful, I think, just given the current focus on this and the importance of safety and health. So on-campus teaching is confirmed for September, so we will be teaching on campus next month. And obviously the plans going forward would include, significant on-campus teaching as well. We have one of the fastest vaccine rollouts in the world. So we're currently on 80% of adults, so over 18s are vaccinated. And we plan to be at 90% by September. So most of our students, as well as our staff, will actually be fully vaccinated by the time we go back to campus. We've been very lucky on that. I think we have such a highly educated population. We haven't really been affected by vaccine hesitancy or conspiracy theories and stuff like that. So we have a very high take up of over 99% when people are offered the vaccine. There is free vaccines and COVID testing and healthcare available for international students when they arrive into Ireland. So we will make sure that students who haven't been vaccinated will have access to vaccines when they get here. We are also a member of the UN Security Council, and we're advocating heavily for funding and supply of vaccines to be made available to smaller and developing countries as well. So it's something that, as a policy of Ireland, we are advocating hugely for vaccine supply to be made given more equality. The cases and severe cases in Ireland are quite low, so we have we have kind of seen the benefits of the vaccination rollout. There's almost no lockdown rules in place. The only kind of main rule is for very large gatherings. So there is kind of restrictions around the number of people that can be in a sports venue. I think it's about 25 to 30% of capacity, but restaurants and things like that are all open again. Free movement around the country and so on, and travel around Europe has reopened with the EU passport vaccine as well. We will be probably looking at some very large classes, so large lectures may be delivered online in a blended way to allow for social distancing, but smaller classes, so smaller lectures, practical classes and tutorials will take place on campus as normal. So ensuring safety for all students is our number one priority. We do provide free airport collection, assistance with the arrival process, assistance with self-isolation and quarantine and so on as well. So there's a full team in place that manage the arrivals process for any international students. We have also been more flexible on deferrals, refund options and deposit deadlines as well, just understanding that the situations in every country are slightly different. Okay, I'll promise not to mention the C word again for the rest of the presentation. So our location, so we are on the west coast of Ireland in the Midwest. You can see the red arrow is located on the University of Limerick. So we're basically an hour south of Galway, which is the fourth largest city, and an hour north of Cork, which is the second largest city. And then you can see Dublin, which is the capital city on the east coast, and that's about 2 hours by bus or by train. So Limerick actually is the third largest city in Ireland. I'll correct you on that one, Ivy. And in UL, we have 16,000 students with over 3,000 international students per year. We have an international airport, so Shannon International Airport, which is actually where duty-free shops were invented, believe it or not. That's about 30 minutes away from UL. And then most students actually fly into Dublin Airport, which is a larger airport. And that's about 2 hours. There's an hourly bus service and airport collection from there. Just in terms of our global location, so to position us in the world, we're about 1 hour by plane from London. So you probably know where London is, and to fly to London is about 1 hour from Shannon. So Limerick, so our campus is a suburban campus. So we are based in a large parkland suburban campus surrounded by kind of residential and shopping areas. We're about 10 minutes by bus to the city centre of Limerick. We're a large award-winning parkland campus. So all of our facilities are sports, social, accommodation, teaching, everything is located in the one campus. So it's kind of like that US style campus environment. It's been voted the best student campus in Ireland for the last, I think, 5 years. And then UL and UL is one of 4 universities in Limerick City. So 33% of the population in Limerick is actually under the age of 24 and in university. So it's a really kind of vibrant student city. There's an art college, a teaching college, and then the Technological University of the Shannon, which is one of the bigger universities in that kind of group, as well as UL. So 4 big universities means that there's quite a vibrant, young, dynamic, creative culture in Limerick City, which is it's a great place to live. So why choose UL specifically? As I mentioned, so the largest internship program in Europe, 8-month internships for all undergraduate students. Most are paid for by the company and are organized by UL. #1 international student experience in the world. That survey wasn't done last year for obvious reasons. Degrees designed by industry for industry. So we work very closely with our industry partners. So because we have so many students going out on placement, we have to work very closely with our industry partners to make sure they have the skills needed to be able to thrive in their work placements. The world-class student life. So as mentioned in the video, we do provide a huge amount of support and facilities in place for social activities as well. So we have the main way we do that is through our clubs and societies. So clubs are normally related to physical activities like sports, and in societies are more cultural. So we have everything from tea appreciation to surfing to I'm actually a coach of the American football team, outdoor pursuits, music, drama, and so on. So depending on what your students are interested in or passionate about, there is something to cater for all needs. So everything from people who are interested in gaming and computers to hiking and skydiving. There's something for everyone. Our campus life then, so each student gets their own private bedroom, private bathroom. So you can see the photo on the top left is an example of one of our dorm rooms. I actually studied in Limerick, as I said, and lived on campus for a couple of years. I did an exchange with NYU in New York and moved over to New York to live in the dorms in America. And I shared the same bedroom, but with 3 students, which is a big culture shock for me. So I definitely found the kind of student life or the student facilities definitely a step ahead in Ireland for sure. And then basically you would have a shared living room and kitchen with 5 other students. So you would live in an apartment block basically. The living room would be something like this, and the kitchen would be something like that. It's a fully furnished kitchen, so students will often cook their own meals on campus and stuff like that. So there is meal plans, but most students will buy groceries and cook for each other on campus rather than buying an expensive meal plan. Cost between 4,000 and 6,000 per year for a single room, and then obviously we have 24-hour security. There's live-in managers, and the facilities are world-class, essentially. We reserve 2,000 spaces on campus specifically for our international students. So availability is quite good. So if students want to live on campus, we strongly urge students definitely for their first year in Ireland to live on campus. And then some students choose to move off campus because they move in with friends and so on, or know the area that they would like to live in. We're a comprehensive university, so we are arranged into 4 large faculties. And then within those faculties, we have 19 schools. So the faculties are science and engineering, education and health science, arts, humanities and social science, and business. And then you can see the schools named there. Each school will offer bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. We have around 350 programs on offer, so I'm not going to go through each one in depth, but we have a very wide range of programs catering for pretty much all areas. The kind of most popular areas, I suppose, just to pick them out, so our School of Engineering, so aeronautical and mechanical engineering would be very popular. Biomedical, obviously, with the number of pharma companies and medical device companies. We have a very strong School of Computer Science and Information Systems. We've just launched a revolutionary new program, which basically takes the medical training process and applies it to computer science. So students are doing residencies. So for 50% of their program, they're doing supervised residencies in companies like Facebook, Stripe, and other tech companies. And then 50% of the course is taught on campus. So it's immersive computer science is the name of the new program. And it's a game changer in the computer science education field. We have a School of Medicine. It's a graduate entry medicine program. So students complete a pre-med graduate, pre-med undergraduate degree first, and then go on to medicine afterwards. We have physiotherapy, psychology, which are popular. Politics and public administration. I can't help but mention my alma mater and my school. We have one of the top law schools in Ireland, so rated #1 in Ireland last year, which is quite popular. A very strong School of Music and Dance, so the Irish World Academy is a performing arts school. We get students from Indonesia, from Japan, from Vietnam each year that come to develop their music and dance performance skills. And then our business school is Triple Crown accredited, so ACSB, AMBAS, and EQUIS accredited, which puts it in the top kind of 1% of business schools in the world. It's an unusual business school. So it was founded by a socialist, or it's named after a socialist politician in Limerick, so Jim Kemmy. So it's the Kemmy Business School, and it has a policy of fighting for workers' rights, fighting for equality of labor and so on. So it's not your standard business school where it's make money at all costs. It has quite a kind of an equilateral or quite a friendly policy towards equality and workers' rights and so on. So it's an unusual business school, but very very highly rated. The structure of our degrees, and I'm conscious of time, I will keep going as quick as I can. So our bachelor degrees are 4-year degree programs. So students will study theory and practical work in year 1 and year 2. And then, as I mentioned, our unique selling point in year 3, students will do an 8-month internship. So we swap out an academic year. We arrange a compulsory internship placement for them that's supervised by the university. So our faculty will actually visit a couple of times during the program. Salaries are approximately $2,000 per month, depending on the company. And then year 4, the student will come back in, will complete the program and a research project, a capstone project, and that will finish their bachelor degree. Fees on average are between kind of 11, 12,000 and 16, 17,000, depending on the program. The only exception would be for health science, so things like medicine, physiotherapy, psychology are historically more expensive, so up to about 32,000. Our master's degrees, a big selling point for that is that they are 1 year in duration. So students will do a compressed 12-month master's. So they do the same amount of credits that you would do in a standard 2-year master's degree, but they actually do it over 12 months. So it saves them a year of time and also a year of tuition fees. So it's half the cost of a 2-year program. It is quite intensive, so students don't really get a huge break at any time during the year, but they will do basically 2 thought semesters, so from September to May, and then they'll do a research project or a company internship from May to August. So it will go full 12-month cycle. Just to mention, actually, all of our programs intake once per year in September, so we don't do multiple intakes. The Irish system, basically, the school leavers finish their government exams in get the results in August, and then they're all scholarshiped. Everyone starts university in September, so we have a huge intake in September for domestic students. So as a result, we don't run multiple intakes per year, so it would just literally be international students starting in January if that was the case, and we don't really want that to happen because it will cause kind of people will be less socialized and less in common with their groups and so on. So we do once per year, and that's pretty common across all Irish universities, except for maybe some of the privates. The unique selling point for Ireland then, so students get an automatic 2-year visa stay back. So they don't need to have a job offer, or they don't need to be earning a certain amount of money or anything like that. Essentially, once they graduate from their master's or their bachelor's, UL is the visa sponsor. So we'll sponsor them for a 1-year visa for bachelor's graduates and a 2-year visa for master's graduates. That basically gives them time to secure work. So they would use that time basically to apply for professional jobs, get into a full-time role, and then from that point they can apply for a working visa and look for a longer duration stay. So the process from when students finish and graduate, if they want to remain in Ireland for a longer term period, basically they would have their 2-year visa. They can work unrestricted on that, and then basically they would need their company to sponsor them for what's called a Tier 2 visa, which is a working visa. And then once they're working in Ireland for 5 years, they can apply for PR, permanent residency, at that stage. So it's quite a straightforward process. We do have a number of students that have gone through that since studying here. So it's definitely something that is achievable for students if they wish to go down that route. That's just a very quick cost comparison. So as I mentioned, publicly funded universities and a reasonably low cost of living in Limerick. So our total kind of average cost per year is around 19,000. We took similarly ranked universities in the 3rd cities in these countries, so UK, US, and Australia. We compared the costs. So it's about 28,000 euros in UK. It's 48,000 euros in Australia. 48,000 euros in USA, and 34,000 euros in Australia. So a significant saving. So about 10,000 euros saving from the UK, less than half the US, and significant savings from Australia as well. So that's definitely something you need to look at. Return on investment. Can you get a job after you graduate in the UK and US? But also the overall cost of living, cost of education, and stuff like that is very, very important to consider. So it's low cost, but it is still very, very high quality because we are funded. We have literally millions of euros coming to us each year from the Irish government. So I just wanted to talk very quickly on industry collaboration. So some of the companies that we work with. So we have over 2,000 industry partners. We've seen a kind of over the last couple of years in Ireland, we've seen these companies continue to hire. It's not really slowed down the economy in Ireland. And most of these companies will kind of need to continue to hire in the current crisis. So we're seeing the companies like pharmaceuticals, software and computer science, medical devices, and so on are more busier now than they were even a couple of years ago. So they've continued to develop their hiring strategies and hire more staff here in Ireland. The OECD has identified the Irish economy as one of the least impacted globally by the coronavirus pandemic, and a big reason for that is the sectors that are based here. So if we think about it, Microsoft, Zoom, Google, these are all based in Ireland. They are busier now than they were a couple of years ago. We can see normally I would be sitting in front of you guys and presenting. We're doing everything remotely now. So the computer science companies are under a huge demand and a huge kind of growth sector at the moment. The same with medical devices, same with pharmaceuticals, same with financial services. So we've got excellent post-study work opportunities, and students have been able to avail of the visa scheme. So even students that have graduated in the last 12 months, we've seen most of those actually get into work opportunities here in Ireland as well. So just to kind of give you an idea of the scale of the industry clusters, so 9 of the top 10 global ICT companies, 8 of the top 10 gaming companies, so EA, Blizzard, and big companies in that area, 8 of the top 10 global pharmaceutical companies, 15 of the top 20 medical device companies, and 50% of the world's leading financial services firms have their European hub in Ireland. So the companies that most of our graduates are working for are not, Liam Ryan Limited, which is just, a small business with just a couple of employees. They're getting jobs with Microsoft, with Electronic Arts, with Pfizer, with Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are big, recognizable multinationals, and they really do open up. They almost give students a global passport to work in any kind of one of those companies' offices after they graduate and stuff like that as well. So it's a very good route for students to get into employment after they finish. That's just a sample of some of the companies that we work with on our internship program. So you can see Apple, Analog Devices, ACCA, Amazon, Accenture, EY, Intel, KPMG, Johnson & Johnson, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Pfizer, Jaguar Land Rover, and so on. So they're companies that are participating in our internship program, and do take students every day and take them in for 8 months on a paid placement. So it's definitely something that's a differentiator for us, and it really does help with students getting into to employment after they graduate. Average graduate salaries. So overall bachelor's graduate salary in Ireland is €30,000. The UL graduate salary is actually significantly higher due to them having a year of experience. So it's around €35,000 per year. I translated that into Vietnamese dong. I haven't done it for every currency, but it's about 950 million Vietnamese dong is the average graduate salary here in Limerick. For sectors then, so medtech and pharma, finance and computer science, they're the average salaries for the kind of the overall country for students finishing and graduating into those areas. So just to talk through entry requirements very briefly. So for Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, we accept the national high school curriculum plus either a foundation program or SAT. So we have a foundation program on campus in Limerick, but we also have a number of foundation programs approved in the different countries. So in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and so on. So students can either take their foundation here in Limerick, or they can sit the foundation in their home country and transfer into first year of the program here in Limerick. Interestingly, we also accept the SAT. So if a student has their high school diploma and then also sits SAT with a score of 1190, we will accept them directly onto the first year of their bachelor's. So students can skip the foundation program if they wish. They obviously need to have good English and the SAT program sat as well. There is some exceptions. So Vietnamese gifted high schools we accept for direct entry. For Malaysia, we accept STPM and UEC for direct entry, not SPM. But yeah, there's quite a lot of information on our website, or you can contact me with specific queries. We obviously accept IB and A levels. And then for IELTS, we look for a 6.5 with no score below 6, or Duolingo 110. We do also have a pre-sessional language program. So for students who don't hit those benchmarks, entry is not impossible. Students can do an English language program in our language school, which is on campus in Limerick. And they will transition then into the bachelor's or master's degree after that. For masters, a GPA of 3 out of 4 or an average score of 7.0 or an average grade of 70% is kind of the overall benchmark. And again, the IELTS scores are the same. and it does vary slightly by country, but the average is a 70% or a GPA of 3 out of 4. The scholarships, basically, so we offer anything from €1,500 per year to €4,000, depending on the students, basically, on their academic grades. So we work out, basically, there's an entry level score. So for postgraduate, a student will have an entry score of 3.0. They will qualify for a scholarship if their GPA is 3.2 or higher, and then they'll qualify for an even higher scholarship if their GPA is 3.4 or higher. So the higher their grades, basically, above the entry score, they'll qualify for slightly higher scholarship amounts as well. Those are assessed automatically. So once a student applies to UL, they're considered for the scholarship automatically, and they're eligible, and they'll get an offer letter and their scholarship letter on the same day. So they don't need to make a separate application. There is also 100% scholarships that are available through the Government of Ireland scholarship, and also through different Irish aid schemes. So Vietnam, I know, has a strong Irish aid scheme where we do get students on full scholarships from the embassy in Ireland, or the embassy in Vietnam as well. So there is 100% scholarships available, not through Limerick University, but through the government in Ireland to be able to access that as well. So just a very quick student spotlight. I kind of wanted to just make things a little bit more real. So Natrata, she's one of our student ambassadors. She studied in KKU University, which is big on kind of multimedia in Thailand. She then came to UL and studied the MSc in marketing. She graduated in 2018, and she's now working for the last number of years as a quality analyst with the social media app TikTok. So she's been based in TikTok for the last number of years. She's on a pathway to permanent residency, so she's on the kind of the sponsored visa. She picked Ireland, and Limerick has been hugely successful and has had support throughout this journey. So I have, case studies for Vietnamese students who are software engineers in Microsoft. I have Indonesian students who are lecturers in universities in Ireland and in Indonesia. There's a whole range of different kind of case studies there, but we do help students, get through the whole process. It's not just about the university piece. We do understand that the work life afterwards is I suppose a big draw of why students are doing this. So we provide a lot of assistance to get into work after they graduate as well. So we'll finish up and start the Q&A. So just a very quick UL summary. So it's fun, it's safe, you get internships, you get employment, and it's affordable. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Liam. I'm pretty sure that everyone has a grasp of general information about Limerick University. So I just have, before everyone jump in and asking question, I just have a quick question in terms of those students interested in studying pharmacy and technology. As you mentioned earlier in your presentation, that those two are pretty popular for international students with opportunity to migrate after they graduate. So for the stats, how many students from Southeast Asia in general, if you have any, or from Vietnamese student or Indonesian student study in pharmacy, say, for example? Yeah, I know so that pharmacy is quite hard to get in.
Yeah, it's well, so there's a couple of different routes. So because so if you study pharmacy from a health science perspective, you become a kind of a qualified pharmacist, and you're responsible for dispensing the drugs and so on. We actually focus on bioscience, industrial pharmaceuticals. So actually the development of the drugs and the manufacturing of them. So we have a couple of programs in that sector. So rather than becoming a qualified pharmacist where you get a slip from a doctor saying give this person 12 tablets of this type, it's actually researching. So things like researching the
lab involved. Yeah.
Exactly. So researching vaccines for COVID, for example, would have been kind of one of the programs that we worked on. So we have bioscience, we have pharmaceutical science, industrial pharmaceuticals, So we have a number of undergraduate students. So from Malaysia, there's a couple of students from Indonesia on computer science and programs in that area. So there's definitely growing interest. We have a couple of student ambassadors. So they're current students from Malaysia who are on maybe year 2 or year 3 of that program. So if there was students who are interested and interested in coming into pharmaceuticals, that would, there's support and advice coming from that point. That my advice would be, so unless somebody wants to specifically become a pharmacist, then definitely go down that route. But actually there's more opportunities, and there's a bigger sector in the research and manufacturing and kind of development of new kind of treatments and new kind of drugs, as opposed to the dispensing of those drugs and entry onto pharmacy programs. It's essentially like medicine. You need straight A's, and it's about 40,000 euros per year, I think, as well. So actually look at something like bioscience or industrial biochemistry or pharmaceutical chemistry. They can be quite easy to get into, but will give you a very, very strong opportunities for jobs after graduation.
Right. Yeah. And actually, for like what you mentioned, the program involved a lot of like research and labs, and I would say it's very practical and industrial oriented. So in terms of my experience, I also have like some friends working in the bioengineering and biochemistry industry in the US. Very easy to get the job and find job after graduate. So yeah, of course, as you mentioned, for some Southeast Asian students looking for like an easier option to get into this industry, can choose like bio science, or yeah, like bioengineering would be easier to get into, but still has to be a good student in like biology and
biology, chemistry. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the basic one. Yeah. I think we have a question about the accommodation fees. So perhaps you may want to go back a little bit, talking about the renting fee for student per week or per month.
Yeah, so basically the way it works is there's kind of a fee for the academic year. So depending on the type of room that you rent. So the lowest cost is 4,000 per academic year. The highest cost is 6,000. The 6,000 euros is normally for like a 2-bedroom apartment. So you share your kitchen and living room with just one other student. It's normally kind of PhD students or postgrad students that will take that option. For most undergraduate students, they will take the kind of the 6-bedroom apartment options within our student villages. So 4,000 per academic year.
I just calculated it was like 340 per month. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, it's an academic year, so it runs from September to
like 9 months, right? 9 months.
Exactly. Yeah. And then basically students have the option to extend their stay for the summer, and the cost to extend is very, very low. So I mean, there's no students on campus, or very few students on campus in the summer. So it's around 100 euros per week to extend for the summer if they want to. A lot of our students will go traveling or will go home for the summer, or depending on what the situation is. So the academic year basically runs from first week of September through to the end of May for their exams. So that's kind of the overall cost. So for undergraduate students, it will normally be around that 4,000 mark. For postgrads, they're open to take the more expensive one if they prefer, if they want a quieter apartment, or they can take the lower cost. So I'll share my screen again on this one just so you can see. So yeah, between 4,000 and 6,000 per academic year, and basically you'd be in kind of a student village like this, and just the cost really depends on the number of people you share with, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Other students can also have options to find like their own like room or apartment in the city, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So
like website, or like renting website that the student can look into.
Yeah, so we have a full accommodations team. So they manage all of the on-campus accommodation, but they also vet off-campus landlords, and they have kind of a database of off-campus accommodation. So it's very useful actually for international students. So they can see somebody that they can trust has gone in and viewed the apartment to say it is what it's saying it is. It's not, a cupboard in somewhere where, they actually will go in and take photos themselves independently, as opposed to something from a website. So they have a verified list of landlords there. And yeah, so on and off campus, there's assistance basically on both. It's much easier to arrange on campus from, if you're arriving in from international, whereas if you're here and you're based in Limerick, you can view apartments and stuff like that. Maybe for year 2 or semester 2, students may want to move off campus, but the cost is not. Sometimes in cities, the student accommodation is much higher than the off campus accommodation. The cost between living off campus and on campus is almost the same or almost identical. I lived in both. So I lived off campus with some of my friends in year 4. I lived on campus in year 1 and year 2. And I think the on campus living actually is probably easier. It's, walking distance to all the teaching buildings. You've got, great Wi-Fi, all the facilities are there and stuff like that. There is a question there actually, is the living cost include accommodation fees? It does, yeah. So the overall cost of 7,000, about 2,000 to 3,000 is for transport, food, and so on, and then the rent is about 4,000.
Yeah, that's great, because a lot of students wondering, like, they heard that living off campus is cheaper than living on campus, but I think it might not be the case for in Europe in general, because I also heard that some of my colleagues staying in the UK, they also study as well, and there's not a lot of like a huge difference between living on campus and off campus, and that's great to hear. Yeah,
it looks so. If you look at it from outside in, so the monthly rent will be lower, so you will pay maybe 250 euros per week in rent for off campus. So you'll be like, oh, it's 100 euros cheaper. That's amazing. I'm going to take that. But actually, you then have to pay for electricity, for heating, for water, for waste collection. So all of those add up to probably the same, 100 euros per month. So it actually works out almost the same cost per month if you actually do the maths on it. But if you look at it, okay, the rent is 350 per month in on campus and 250 per month off campus, but the 350 per month includes all of your bills as well. So yeah, the cost is almost the same. I think we worked it out. It might be like a couple of €100 less per year to live off campus.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more bother and effort.
Thank you. We got another question about the deposit. So in order to get the full offer letters and I guess the cash for student to apply for the visa, how much is the deposit?
Yeah, so basically the kind of the application process, there's a €35 application fee. So that would be paid basically at the point of applying. A student can get an offer based on their application, so they'll get a full offer at that stage. In order to get their visa support letter, they should pay at least €6,000. So 50% of their fees or €6,000, whichever is lower. So to get their kind of visa process started, to go from there, they would pay 50% of their fees, but they will get an offer based on a €35 application fee. So they don't need to pay the tuition fees until a month or 2 before they arrive in UL.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so 6,000 euros for the I guess the cash to get the visa rolling. Yeah.
Exactly. There's an acceptance deposit of €600. So you pay your application fee, and then you can pay an acceptance deposit, which holds your place in the program. Yeah. And then, if you're definitely coming and you want to start the visa process, you then pay 50% of your fees or 6,000, whichever is lower. So the way that we work, so we have capped capped number of spaces on each program. So we normally take around 20 to 30 students onto our postgraduate courses. There's higher numbers for undergraduate, obviously, but we work on a rolling admissions basis. So we open in November, and then we close at the end of June. But if say, for example, if it's international business masters, if there's 20 spaces and 20 students have been offered and accepted, then the course will close at that stage. So there's an advantage actually to applying earlier in the process, and then there is an advantage to paying your acceptance deposit because it will hold that space on the course as well.
Yeah. But in terms of like those courses, like higher than the average tuition fees, so would the 6,000 euros still applied, or would we have to be like 50% of the tuition fees?
So for things like medicine and physiotherapy and stuff like that, there's slightly separate rules. So it's normally 50% of the fees for those. But for ones that are slightly higher, as long as they pay 6,000, basically the payment cycle for UL, they pay 50% or 6,000 euros fees in advance of arriving, and then they pay the balance of the year before semester 2. So they can pay 50% before semester 1 in September and 50% before semester 2 in January. So it's kind of what's called kind of installments payment if they want. Or they can pay 100% before they start as well. There's no preference either way.
We got another question. Could the student study English course before enrolling to? I think this is related to those students that do not meet the English language requirements, or UG or PG.
We have a very good academic English program in place. So we have a language center basically built into the university. So we have our School of English is actually in the top 50 in the world, but they have a school of English language built into the faculty. We offer a pre-sessional English course. I'm going to just paste the link into chat. So basically students, so depending on what their incoming IELTS or Duolingo or TOEFL scores are, that will decide how long a program they need to study. So if they have an IELTS of 5.0, for example, they will do a full academic year. If they have an IELTS of 6.0, they're just 0.5 below, they will do a shorter program of kind of 6 weeks or so. That program is happening online for this summer, but the plans are for that to go back to on campus for next year. So basically students will do the pre-sessional program. It's accredited and taught by our university and our faculty members. So they don't need to retest in IELTS or retest in Duolingo or anything like that. They basically finish the program on a Friday in August, and then they start the masters or the bachelors on the following Monday in September. So it's set up basically, it finishes just at the end of the cycle, and then they transfer directly onto the program that they were planning to study. So yeah, we get around 50 to 60 students on that course each year. So some from Vietnam, some from China, some from, I think we get Kuwaiti students on the program. So depending on where students are coming from. But yeah, we do understand that, students who have the academic ability, but maybe not the really, really strong English skills do need some support on that.
Yeah. I have another question in terms of, like, say, for example, if the student in Vietnam, they finish first semester in maybe like January or February, then if they only have to study, like, say 5 weeks of English, would that create like a gap in between once they finish the English program, and then they have to wait until like September to enroll, right?
So normally what would happen is so the student would come in. So if they're planning to start a program in September, they would come in kind of in July or August time. So there might be a slight gap between them finishing in February, but they'll go through the application process, go through the visa process, and so on. So they'll arrive in Ireland then in kind of early July. They'll do their English language program July and August, and then start their course in September. So they won't do the English course like in February they'll do it together with the rest of their class, kind of just before the program starts. So there will be a slight gap, but they have to go through all the kind of application process, visa process, and so on as well. So they'll be busy with documentation before they arrive.
Yeah, and the student can study online with English if it's like relaunch this year, right?
Yeah, so currently they're all studying online basically. The plan, as far as I know, the plan is to have like a blended approach for next year. So we will have students obviously on campus, but we will offer some sort of online learning for English as well. I think the preference is to have all students here and on campus. The big thing that develops English language fluency is immersion. So I think the quality of the course definitely is dependent on students speaking English, not just in the classroom during the day, but actually outside as well. So the preference is definitely to have students on campus as much as possible. But we do understand, there's rolling lockdowns around the world. There is flexibility needed and stuff as well. So yeah, I'm sure there is kind of ways around that. But definitely for us, our preference is to have as many students here and immersed in the campus environment as best we can.
Oh, speaking of getting the student to study on campus, in terms of like borders, do you still have like international student coming coming to Ireland and study on campus for this September's intake?
Yeah, so we have we actually throughout the pandemic we haven't closed the borders. So education was deemed as an essential reason to travel. So last year we had around 700 degree-seeking students that came in and studied in UL last year. We're expecting around 1,000 to come in this year, and then obviously our exchange and study abroad programs are coming back as well. So we're probably not back up to the full 3,000 students we would get, but maybe around 2,000 international students coming in this year. So basically, there's a couple of documents that you would need to provide for the travel. So you need to have your offer letter to show that you're traveling for education. There is kind of a contact tracing, so what's called the passenger contact form that needs to be filled in from the Irish government side. And then basically the university is responsible to collect all students from the airport, bring them to the campus, and then basically students will do, depending on their situation, if they're fully vaccinated, if they're coming from an at-risk country or not at-risk country, they will either have self-isolation period, which is done in the campus dorms, and we'll help with kind of food provision and so on. If they're unvaccinated coming from an at-risk country, so I think Indonesia and Malaysia are currently on that list, and it's updated weekly. If they're unvaccinated, then they have to do the mandatory hotel quarantine. So that's a 10 days quarantine in a government facility, and then they're tested at the end of that period. The borders are open, so it just really depends on students' individual situations. But we've had students coming into us from all around the world over the last kind of 18 months, and at no stage have our borders closed, and they won't close for education. It's
that's great. Yeah, very good to hear that. We have a question in terms of the postgraduate scholarship. Like which kind of documents would the student need to provide, like say motivation letters, essay, etc.
So for the scholarship, it's essentially done off their transcript. So it's very much based on a matrix of GPA. So we, in terms of fairness, I think for letters of motivation and application letters and so on, it's very much open to interpretation. And if you've met the student and you like them, you can kind of give them a scholarship and so on. So for fairness and for kind of for transparency, it's essentially done on a matrix. So the entry score is a GPA of 3. If a student is 3.2 or higher, they get scholarship, first tier of scholarship. If it's 3.4 or higher, they get the second tier of scholarship. So essentially, they can write the best letter in the world, but it is really very much done on their grades.
Yeah, that's the first criterion for the scholarship actually. So that would be auto assessed based on this the student application and the merits in this transcript. So there's no need to apply like separately for the scholarship, right? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all done automatically.
Yeah, got it. So we have a question from Eric. Can the students submit their IELTS 6.5 upon intake of September if they failed their IELTS upon application? I guess it is a yes, right?
Yeah, so basically you don't even need to send an IELTS to apply. So you can if they have an IELTS result, I think it's good to include it. If it's even below the entry score, we can still offer based on their academic grades. So the student will get a conditional offer letter, and basically we only need to have the proof of English language before they enroll. So whether they do that through retesting an IELTS or Duolingo, or they do the English language preparation program, we don't need to have a student met the English language requirement before they apply. They only need that before they enroll. So there is kind of a time, and some students do that. They'll apply in kind of December, January time, get their conditional offer letter, and then that kind of focuses the mind a little bit, and they then put their work into either retesting for IELTS or something like that. So yeah, so basically if they have an English language cert, even if it's below included in the application, and then basically you'll be asked for the final grades or final cert before they enroll in the program in September.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think we have a question. So is it sure for students to get a seat in their chosen academic program if they are attending the English program? Oh, okay, I see. So perhaps the question here is that if the student can get like a guarantee seat in their chosen coursework program if they attended with the English program at Limerick.
It is basically, so the process basically is that they will have paid their acceptance deposit, they'll have reserved their place on the program, and basically, so it is still, it's an English language course. It's not guaranteed progression, but essentially they will work, they work on a continuous assessment basis. So if a student is falling behind in a certain area, the lecturers and the faculty team will actually work with that student in a more intensive way to say, okay, your speaking and your reading and your listening are perfect, but we need to work on the fourth part, and they'll actually intensively focus the classes in that area. The pass rate, I think we didn't have anyone fail it last year. I think we didn't have anyone fail it the year before. I do remember one student failed it the 2 years beforehand. But that student didn't attend classes, so it's not guaranteed, but the progression rate is close to 100% through. They're taught by faculty, they're continuously assessed, and we kind of tailor the course basically if they need support in speaking or listening or reading or whatever it might be. They'll basically push them towards more classes in that area, and normally students that are coming in, they'll have their reading and their writing will be fine. They might need some support on speaking or listening, and it'll kind of focus on one of those areas. So it's as close to guaranteed as possible, but we can't say it's fully guaranteed, because there has been students that have shown up and just not attended any classes and not engaged. So they've been kind of told that
it has to be. Yeah, it has to come from the student efforts as well. If at least the attendance is not satisfied, then impossible for the student to progress to the further course. So and it's built on a scale. So students are coming in with, if a student has an IELTS of 5.0, they're expected to do a full academic year. You're not going to come in and improve your level that quickly. The short course is really designed for students who maybe have a 0.5 below, have tested an IELTS maybe 3 or 4 times and just can't get that extra 0.5. So it's designed for that type of student. The full academic year then is essentially a kind of a foundation program or something like that. Or the student can go through the pathway program like foundation year as well. Yeah.
So our foundation entry is an IELTS of 5.0. So it does include English language as well as academic work on campus. So that's accepted as well.
So I hope that answered your question, Tien. Any other question from our attendants today? So actually it's really good to hear that Ireland is very welcome, all the international students, and last year you actually have a quite very good numbers of student coming, international student coming to study at Limerick. So I think that's pretty much it, and we are well over the 1 hour webinar today.
I talk a lot. It's an Irish thing.
Thank you very much. Very informative session today, and it's really good to catch up with you and then get more updated informations. And I hope that is a very insightful session today for everyone. So hopefully that we can convert students soon to Limerick for this year or next year. Thank you very much, and I will send out the PPT presentation for today, and also the reporting to everyone who cannot make it today. So feel free to circulate it to your colleague. And thank you very much, Liam. And I hope you stay safe. And hopefully we can meet each other in person once this pandemic hopefully over soon.
And actually, one thing just to mention on that, so we've basically recruited a team of alumni ambassadors. So because I obviously travel restrictions and so on, I'm not able to get out to market to go to physical events. I'm conscious, obviously, there is different restrictions in place in different countries. But if you do have physical events, we do have alumni ambassadors in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, in Thailand, that can actually go and represent you well. So they're trained, they've studied here, they know the admissions requirements. So I'm conscious that just the face-to-face piece may be important in some markets, maybe not so important in others, but definitely let me know if there's more events I can jump in. Thank you all so much for your time and attention, and stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.